So up next, it's my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Director Kathleen Jackson of the Texas Water Development Board. Director Jackson was first appointed to the board back in 2014 and was reappointed in 2017. She has a diverse background in engineering, agriculture, and oil. Having served on a long list of water-related boards and commissions, she brings keen understanding of the water needs of Texas to the board. And, you know, really importantly, and you all know this, she also brings, I think, such an appreciation for relationships and people, which is fantastic. And I think it just fits so well into what we're trying to talk about and do here. So with that, let's welcome Kathleen Jackson.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. We spoke earlier to the board of directors, but bring you greetings from our other two board members, Peter Lake, who serves in the financial slot, as well as Brooke Pop, serves in the legal spot. Just exciting times in Texas and lots going on. I'm reminded that, you know, Texas is in perpetual drought punctuated by times of flood. And so, you know, what really I think is impactful is that, you know, as people across Texas look for leadership, they certainly look for the people that are in this room. And but you also are very powerful messengers. And so when there are opportunities for new things that are emerging within our state, new policy, new sources of water data, new opportunities, new challenges, well, then they look for you and they ask what your opinion is and what you think about things. So, you know, I'd like to spend some time today talking about flood and talking about what we have that's in store, the challenge that we have before us, and I think the role that the Texas legislature has given to the Texas Water Development Board to kind of move forward with some new things that we are going to be doing and maybe kind of build on the shoulders of the things that we did in the past. I did want to recognize Carlos Rubenstein as being our former chairman of the Texas Water Development Board. We stand on the shoulders of those that came before us, and he certainly was a great leader and continues to be a great leader in Texas water. Of course, the Texas Water Development Board, I tell folks we basically, there are three buckets in terms of what we do. We are the data repository for all water data for Texas. That is so important because we know that it's important that our decisions be data-driven, because the better the data, the better the science, the better the science, the better the policy. And so important that it be something that is available in its raw format to everyone, so that if you want to reach your own conclusion, you have. If you're working on new technology, you can. And that there be this impartial third party, and that's the Water Development Board. Secondly, we have money to loan right here at home. We're a bank, and so you won't get a better interest rate anywhere than the Water Development Board. And I'm very proud of the work that's ongoing across our state for developing new water supply. You know, very quickly, the largest infrastructure project in the nation is ongoing right now in Loose Bayou with their project to move water from the Trinity to Lake Houston. The integrated pipeline project in Dallas, the city of Marfa is putting in a water well. Hidalgo Irrigation District Number 1 lining irrigation canals. So lots of work ongoing across our state for water supply. And of course, we also do wastewater treatment. So important because I think, as we know, there's theoretically not one more molecule of water in the world today than when God created the earth. So it's incumbent on all of us to be good stewards and to return that water back so that it can be used again and again, and that we conserve the water, that we think about it, you know, not just as something that is something that is for tomorrow, but it's for today. And it needs to be kind of a part of our culture. And so everything that we do, every project that we plan, we need to think, you know, time and time again throughout the project, what is the most efficient way to conduct it. And I think, you know, that's something that we all kind of embrace kind of moving forward. And then thirdly, we can be a technical resource. We can't engineer the project for you, but our folks have seen a lot and can give you thoughts and ideas and different options. But But, the reason why, this is so important, and, I'm continued to be reminded on a personal note, is that it's so important because we want to make sure that our children and our children's children have the water that they need. And so, a picture of our children, and, Tommy is an attorney. We had the county judge for Pecos County here earlier today, and Tommy's up in Fort Stockton working with him. Thea's got twin baby boys. They're 20 months old and precious, and of course, we want them to have the kind of quality of life I do that we enjoy today. And Kit is a process operator. He works at a regional wastewater treatment plant, and he just called earlier. It was right after the board meeting, and said, another child is on the way. So the family is growing. Exciting times in Texas, and I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for the leadership role that you've assumed and will continue to assume, and kind of impart and let you know some of the information that we have to kind of impart to others across the state that have to do with flood. Of course, the new news, not so new anymore, was that we did, and the board was charged with doing our first ever state flood assessment. The outcome of this, of course, this was taken on by the board. No real big surprises. I mean, what folks said across Texas was that, the mapping needed to be better. We needed to have planning. We really didn't have a state flood plan, and that we needed to have more involvement from the state and from people across Texas in terms of mitigation, managing that risk. What we heard, of course, is that many of the things that we've been doing with regional water planning, and by the way, we are, as many of you know, the envy of every other state in the nation, because in Texas, it's a bottom-up process. Nobody tells Texans what to do. It is a local process. We have 16 regional water planning groups, and they have volunteers from across the state that represent 450 volunteers. They represent big cities and small communities, agriculture, manufacturing, environmental interests, and they basically say, what do we have today, what do we need for the future, and what are those projects or strategies that will get us there? And so this has been a very successful process, and kind of what we believe, kind of at the very onset, is that the state flood planning process will likely be very similar. Science and data-driven, so important that we have that good information for local folks to be able to make the decisions that they need. A bottom-up process, and then a coordinated regional approach, so a basin-wide approach. And then the other thing that's very unique in Texas is that our financing is linked to planning. So the legislature, I think, was very forward-thinking in putting together, if you will, the resources that we need to be able to move forward with the first ever state flood plan, and also to kickstart some of the projects that we know are so important moving forward. On the planning side, we'll be doing the first ever state flood plan, and again, using some of those key elements that are out there with regional water planning. We have we were provided funding for what's called the Flood Infrastructure Fund. This is right at $800 million. It's exactly $793 million that will be used for projects, many of them for small and rural communities. And we're in the process right now of going across the state and getting input, stakeholder input, on what do the rules need to look like, not only for this initial funding that we've received, but also for the first ever state flood plan. We feel like it's very important that you solicit stakeholder input at the beginning, because oftentimes you kind of put together maybe your thoughts and ideas and a plan and then ask for input. And we think it's very important to get it at the onset and then to continue to get it as we move forward. There's several other funds that have been put together by the legislature. The Harvey account will come through the board, but it will actually be administered by the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And then, of course, the flood management account is where the funding will reside for the first ever state flood plan. So the vision is that we have some funding initially to kickstart some of these projects, but after the planning cycle is complete, then to be able to receive funding from the state for flood projects, you would need to be in the state flood plan. Very similar to the way that we do our state water planning process and the funding that we do through SWIFT and through some of our other programs, wanting to make sure that we have local input and that it's consistent with our overall statewide planning process. What we've been doing across the state is soliciting input from stakeholders. We'll do the formal rulemaking this fall. We anticipate adopting rules in early 2020 and then literally getting the money out the door the first quarter of 2020. So very ambitious schedule, but certainly that's what we heard is, we provided funding through the legislature and we want to get this money out quickly and we want to start this process of getting engagement and involvement and getting the state flood planning process up and going. So this is kind of a map that shows where the stakeholder workshops have been. I've attended many of them, as has our chairman, as has Brooke Popp. This has been a phenomenal effort by our staff. I'm extremely proud of what they put together. They've done something that's maybe a little bit unique than what we've done in the past. It's interactive, and so we've asked and posed some questions. We actually put a document out on our website, and we've requested, these were things that we envisioned as being issues or challenges, and invited folks to kind of weigh in on some of those, as well as anything else that they might feel like is important as we move forward in the process. Our last we did two meetings online, and so they're webinars, and so you can actually go out on our website and you can see the webinars, which is the same information that was presented in the flood stakeholder workshops. And then we've got our last workshop to come in Houston. So these have been great opportunities, again, to solicit folks' thoughts and ideas as we move forward in the rulemaking process. We also received funding to do what we kind of envisioned was kind of an extension of what the board has done traditionally in terms of data gathering and science. I'd ask you to kind of, envision what we have today and think about maybe what it could be. Today, if you're trying to figure out, what is, as a community, your risk of flood, your resource is really something that's used for insurance purposes. It's the firm map, and it's a two-dimensional map, and you can look at it and determine whether or not you're in the floodplain. What if, and we've been traveling, we've been flying what's called LIDAR data, or very sophisticated elevation data, nearly complete from across the state. You are able to kind of take this elevation data, this three-dimensional data, kind of marry it up with hydraulic modeling and then weather information, and put together something that doesn't look like a two-dimensional map, but it looks like a picture. And you're literally able to sit down as a community leadership with your engineers and use this tool to determine not only what the impact might be from a flood or a flood event or a weather event that had happened in the past, but you could do various scenarios of what the impact could be if things were to occur in the future. And then you can literally go in and do either structural or non-structural mitigation and determine, okay, what is the impact of that? So giving a tool to communities that is very visual, that is science-driven, in order to help them determine what level of risk they want to mitigate to. And then being able to take all of this information and put it out in a data dashboard or a flood dashboard so that it's available to communities and to folks around Texas. I mean, I think a very ambitious undertaking, but something that is desperately needed, something that can be very much a tool that is utilized for communities, again, in that whole bottom-up process. And then the other vision I think that the legislature had, and we've definitely heard as we've conducted the stakeholder workshops across the state, is how important it is that it be done on a regional basis. Because what we know is what I might do, from an unintended outcome, could impact one of my neighbors. So it's so important as we move forward with mitigation that we think about it regionally so that we have good outcomes and that we're doing things that benefit the region as a whole. We've worked very hard in terms of getting not only more weather information through the Texas Mesonet out there in our partnership with USGS, as well as creating the online data dashboard and that tool being available through TNRIS. I would kind of direct you to our website. There's a way to go in and kind of sign up for emails so that you can get updates as we move forward with the the rulemaking process and learning more about flood. These are some of the questions that were asked and some of the comments that we've gotten from communities and some of the things that we're kind of considering. This certainly does not have to be everything. Any thoughts and ideas are welcome, and any perspectives are welcome, but you literally can go out on our website and we'll be posting what folks across Texas have been saying, asking questions such as, what does the prioritization system need to look like for flood projects, and what have we maybe not thought about, and what do we need to talk about, and what does the cost-benefit analysis need to look like, and is that different than the way that we've valued it in the past? So a great opportunity for stakeholders across the state to get feedback and to see their comments. We've also posted frequently asked questions. That's out on our website, as well as opportunity to, again, sign up for information kind of moving forward. The other thing that I think was a great outcome from the last legislative session, and the question that was kind of posed at the Water Development Board at the very onset was, where do we feel like we stand on our groundwater availability models? I mean, if we think that, whatever we would be posed or asked to do by the legislature, that we are equipped with the type of modeling that we have right now to address that, then great. But if not, we felt like, and I felt like, that it was kind of incumbent on us to let the legislature know that we needed funding to update those groundwater availability models. And they were very generous in approving this request. And many of you in the room kind of weighed in, and thank you for that, and encouraged that type of investment. So it's going to be very important, again, to keep our system as science and data-driven, that we move forward with this. It's not going to be something that is done overnight. We do recognize, and the legislature did provide some funding for us to add staff at the Water Development Board to work on this. So the other pitch here is, if you have friends or if you know folks who might be interested, we are hiring, and we'd love, we're looking at folks who are right out of school with lots of energy. And what I tell young people, particularly the engineers, because that's what I'm mostly familiar with, if you go out and you work maybe somewhere in the private sector, to get started, you're going to kind of be in that cubicle, and you're going to be in that supporting role. But you come to work with the Water Development Board, you're going to be out there on the front lines, and you're going to be working on some of the most impactful projects, in the nation. It's a tremendous opportunity, and we'd love to get young people who are interested and want to make a difference kind of in water world to come consider a career with the Water Development Board. Or if it's somebody who has had a career and is looking for something as a second career, we'd very much like to talk with you. So if you know folks, please let them know, because we're very interested. And again, it's going to be a big part of what we need to do to move forward and to meet our objectives. Y'all been great in terms of supporting the work that the Water Development Board has done. We are not regulatory. We are a resource for you. Please know that anytime that you have thoughts and ideas, it's wonderful to be able to be here at the conference, because as I travel around Texas, I spend time and I visit with many of you. It's great to have everybody here in one place. Please know that, we talk a lot about, the fact that technology is changing, the fact that we have more data and scientific information than we've ever had before. But I'm convinced that, what's really going to make a difference is those who kind of pick up the ball. They have that idea, and they want to be that champion. It's about leadership. And the folks who are boots on the ground, the best. And so I truly believe in my heart that you can be the most impactful in terms of what we need to do moving forward, whether it's surface water, whether it's groundwater, and whether it's flood. Wouldn't it be great, and wouldn't it be awesome if we could take the challenge that we have in dealing with Texas flood and be able to take that resource and recharge our aquifer? And so there's no doubt in my mind that there are people out there who know how to do this and how to work with us to kind of make that happen. So certainly, if that's something that you think is a priority, there's an opportunity to kind of weigh in through our stakeholder process and through our rulemaking, and kind of let your voice be heard. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being the powerful messengers that you are, not only in carrying the word forward about Texas water, the importance of conservation, the importance of making sure that we have a future water supply for our children and our children's children, the fact that we're protecting our natural resource. But now the new challenge and the new opportunity that we have with dealing with Texas flood. It's an absolute honor to be able to work with the Texas Water Development Board. I tell folks it's a dream come true, and I feel like that, you know, we are successful because of you. You are the ones that are truly making the difference, and it is an absolute privilege and an honor to be associated with each and every one of you. So thank you.